Hello all and welcome to my YouTube channel. So today in this particular video, we are going to see how we can set up MLFlow on GCP. So this particular tutorial is basically focusing on the deployment of MLFlow over the cloud platforms. So this is a continuation video of MLFlow playlist. So in my previous videos, I have discussed everything about MLFlow in detail, and we ran everything about MLFlow and how to set up experimental tracking on the current MLFlow pipelines, right? So these all things were discussed in detail. So if you want to go through those particular videos before watching this particular tutorial, you can just go and watch over those tutorials. And I have made a playlist which is called MLFlow tutorial playlist. So you can go and check out that particular playlist and understand the flow of ML and how we can set up MLFlow over the different parts of ML pipelines, right? And then from there you can just come over to this particular tutorial to set up the MLFlow over the GCP or any other cloud providers, right? So this is a continuation video of that particular tutorials. So now in this particular video, we are going to see step by step how we can set up MLFlow over the cloud providers, right? So right now I'm using GCP as my cloud provider to set up the things for MLFlow. So there are a few things involved before we move into the MLFlow setup on GCP. The main question arises why we want MLFlow to be on any of the cloud providers, right? So the main idea is to share the experiment tracking to your team. So let's suppose if you're a particular individual who has a single setup of ML, and you have developed a machine learning model on your own as an individual, and you don't have a much larger team and you're just working as an individual, then setting up of MLFlow on a local system will work for you. But let's suppose if you have large team, you have a lot of data scientists in your team, ML engineers and product managers, and then you want to showcase your experiment tracking of particular ML model and want to distribute the essence of learning of experiments that you have been doing in your ML model stages. So you can just take up those particular learnings and you can share those learnings to the other data scientists or other teammates who are working in your particular project, right? So that's how the MLFlow on particular cloud provider will help you to share up your learnings about the particular training of a model, and then which is the best model, and that can be taken up from there by different MLEs or data scientists to deploy it on the server, right? So that's the main agenda of deploying the ML model, MLFlow on the GCP or any other cloud provider, right? So today in this particular tutorial, we are going to take a GCP example to set up the MLFlow on the platform, right? So there are a few steps that are involved. So first step is we have to create a PostgreSQL database. So this will help us to store the model metadata information on the database. And the second step would be to take up a bucket, Google Cloud Storage bucket over there to store all the model artifacts, MLFlow artifacts into there. And the third would be to run the compute instance over there to run the MLFlow server. So we need compute instance. So these are basically three things we require. One is PostgreSQL database. Second thing is Google Storage bucket. And then third thing would be the compute engine. So based on these things, we have to just spin up these things over the GCP and we'll try to integrate all these components into one, and then we'll set up MLFlow over the compute engine to run our server, and we'll try to run the test script and we'll try to see how the information are being stored over there in the database, in the PostgreSQL database, and how the things are being stored in the artifacts. So this is the whole process that is being involved in this particular tutorial. So let's go step by step. So the first step is to create a PostgreSQL, right? So we'll go into the Google Cloud platform, and basically you can create your own Google Cloud platform by logging into your Google Cloud platform, and you can give up your informations and details, and it will give you some free credits. And by using that, you can just prepare your Google Cloud setup in few minutes, and then you can start doing the projects from scratch, right? So the first step is to create your Google Cloud account, and the next step would be to create a PostgreSQL database, right? So on the left hand side, you can see navigation menu, and here you can find all the services provided by Google Cloud, right? So if you scroll down, you're gonna see a SQL service that is being provided. So you just click on it, and you're gonna see the page that will open on here, right? So over here, you're gonna click up create instance, and then here you're gonna select the PostgreSQL database. So once you select it, you're gonna be taken to a setting up of instance. So you can give an instance name like MLFlow instance, right, database, and then you can give the password, right, and then you're gonna select this PostgreSQL 14 version, which is the latest one, and then you have to select the development, and then you can select the reasons which suits you better, and then at the bottom you're gonna see your instance. So you can go to the configurations, and then in connection settings you have to select private IP, not public IP, and then you have to specify the default ones, and then it will select an default private IP for you, and that's it. So these are the information that you need to specify. You can select any of the regions. Right now I'm selecting US Central one, which is very default one, so I'm not changing any of the things. Only thing is you have to just make sure that your password is that you have to remember. So make sure that this is what you are using always, right? And then once these all setups are done, you can just click on this create instance. So this will create an Postgres instance for now, and then once it is set up, then we're gonna create a database inside this. So this is just an instance of a PostgreSQL. We haven't created any database. By default, it will create a database with some name of Postgres only, but we want to set up our own database. So we're gonna create it inside this particular instance. So creating of this instance will take little time. So meanwhile, we're gonna go into the next step, and we'll come back again over here in the PostgreSQL to set up a database, right? So the next step was to go into the and create a storage bucket, right? Google Cloud storage bucket. So we're gonna select or you're gonna go to this navigation menu, and then from here you can just select cloud storage, and then you're gonna take up to some spaces, and then we're gonna create a bucket. So you're gonna click the create a button, and then you have to give a bucket name. So I am giving the name as MLFlow bucket, right? And then you can click on continue. Also, or you can say this bucket name is already taken, so I am going to just specify MLFlow artifact store, right? And then I think it's also taken, so let me just specify MLFlow AS, right? So I think it should be accepted, yes. And then you can just select the regions where you want to select this particular bucket to be. I'm selecting multiple regions, which is very default. I'm not changing any of the things. And then you can also play around with some different settings over here, which is very fine for me to work with this. But if you are very specific about some certain privacy of this particular database, then you can just play around with this particular settings, right? So I'm going to click up this create button, and I'm just going to confirm it, and it will create the bucket for me. So you have to remember this name, MLFlow -as for your convenience, for your convenience of setting up an MLFlow server over there. So this name is very required. And then once you are set up with this particular Google Cloud storage bucket, then let's move to the third step, which is setting up the compute instance. So let's go to the navigation menu, and then you want to see a compute engine. If you just click on this, you want to see a portal for compute engine, and then you want to see the VM instances. So you can create a VM instance here, and then you have to just select the VM instance for yourself, so that you can just run your ML server over this, right? So you're going to give an instance name. So I'm giving MLFlow compute, right? Just a name, right? And then I'm going to specify the region on which I have to set up this instance, and then I'm just setting up a general EC2 instance with 2 CPU and 4 GB memory, because MLFlow doesn't require much of the compute to progress. So I'm just selecting the default one, and then if you go down, you have to change this image type operating system. So I'm just selecting deep learning on Linux. So this will change it to some different versions. So I'm just selecting default one, which is Debian 10 version. which is based out of deep learning VM, and it will install all the dependencies like NumPy, Panda, scikit-learn. So all these dependencies are installed. So that's why I'm choosing deep learning or Linux, and then I'm specifying the disk size to be 50 GB. So that's enough for me for now. And then I'm going to allow all the access to the cloud APIs. So this will help this EC2 machine to access all the services that I'm going to use. So let's suppose I'm going to use PostgreSQL and Cloud Bucket, right? So this particular EC2 machine will automatically connect with those particular instances and services. So that's how you're gonna do the things out, right? So you need access. You need to provide access to those particular services. So that's how this particular identity and API access will help you. So here you have to select allow full access to all the cloud APIs, and then if you go into this advanced section, so you have to just click on this drop down menu, and then in this networking you have to select, or you have to type a network tag. So it will help you to create a firewall for yourself, so that will help this particular EC2 instance to be accessed by some people, some specific people. So you have to create a particular Wi-Fi. So that's a method that has to be followed before creating any of these services. So that's why we need a firewall, and I'm just giving a network tag. This network tag will help me to create a particular firewall rule, right? So that's a part of little technicalities involved in networking. Just remember this, that we have to do this network tagging, right? And then once you are set up with this, then you have to just specify the disk, which is I'm not doing any of the things. I'm just using the default one, which is 50 GB of disk. And meanwhile, if you also can add it, and there are other settings that you can play around, but I'm very okay with the settings that I have done over here, and it will help me to execute the or run the particular EC2 instance over there. So let me just create a one, and it will start creating a compute engine for me. And as soon as it creates a compute engine for me, I can see this screen coming up, which is an overview section where I can see all my compute instances here. So if you go into this related section, you can see this set of firewall rules, right? So we have to create a firewall rule, right? So that's a policy, or that's a step-by-step things that we have to do. So for that, you can click on this create firewall rule, and then you have to specify the firewall. So I'm just specifying the firewall name. So I'm saying MLFlow firewall, right? And then I'm going to specify log on. Logs are on, ingress, and then here you have to specify the tags. So I just used MLFlow as a tag, right, over there in EC2 instance, right? So the same tag has to be specified here. So this particular that rule that you're creating, it will tag this particular MLFlow to the EC2 instance tag, and this rule will be applied to that particular instance, right? So this is why we need those tags to work. And then you have to specify the host name. So this will allow us to access this particular EC2 instance from outside also. So this is how we have to specify the host name or the path, right? And then we have to specify the port number. So here at the bottom, you're gonna see the TCP will be unchecked, so you have to check it, and then you have to specify the port. So you have to specify the 5000 port, because 5000 port is being used by the MLFlow itself. So you have to specify 5000 port as it is. Otherwise, the things won't work, right? So these are the settings that you have to do while creating a firewall. And once that is done, you have to just create that rule, and it will start working for you. And we're gonna see like what are the things are set up. So it will automatically integrate it to the EC2 instance. So let me just check whether the things are being running or not. So if we go into this compute engine, and if we see this VM instances, you can see it's still running up, still spinning up the things out. So we're gonna just go to the SQL database that we just created, right? It was creating at that point of time. So we'll have to just create a database over the instance that we created. You can see the instance has been created, and we're just gonna go into this particular instance, and we're gonna create a database. So once you open this particular instance, right, you're gonna see this particular portal, and then at the bottom you're gonna see the database option, right? If you go into this database, by default a database with the name Postgres has been created, but let's create a new database inside this with the name MLFlow, right? So we'll create this particular database with name MLFlow, and it will just create a database inside this MLFlow instance DB with the name MLFlow, right? So I think that's a setup that you have to do before we do anything of it, right? And once that is done, we can go back to compute engine, and we'll see that whether the things are being spinning up or not. So you can see compute engine is also running, and we need this kind of external IP address to move forward. And let's also verify whether our cloud storage bucket is also running or not. So if you go into cloud storage bucket, we're gonna see that our bucket is also running. So we got all these things, three things running up, right? So now the fourth step is to go into the compute machine and just run SSH over that particular machine, right? So, and we have to run this particular following commands over there in the compute machine. So first we have to go into the compute machine, right? So we want to go into the compute engine, and then we're going to select the compute engine that we are running, and here you can see the SSH button, right? If you click on this SSH button, you're going to see a command line interface for that particular machine will spin up over here. So it will take few seconds to run up, and once that is set up, you can just do a normal command. You can pass normal commands into that particular machine, and you can get the response from that particular machine. So you can play everything here in the on browser SSH command, right? So this will open a command cell for you for that particular machine. So it will take few seconds to set up. So let us wait for it. Okay, so you got this particular error, right? So this is nothing but a port that we have to specify in the firewall settings. So we have to specify the 22 port as well with the 5000 ports. So for that, you can just go into this particular cloud cell, and then you have to specify the new port, right? So in this particular VPC network, you can go into this VPC network, and then you can select this firewall. And then here, if you go down, you have specified this particular, you have just created this particular firewall rule, right? So you have to edit this particular firewall rule, and if you scroll down, you can see we specified 5000 port, right? So we have to specify 22 also, right? So if it was like this 5000 port, and then we have to just specify 22 comma 5000. So because we were getting the same error for the port for the port 22, so we have to specify the port, that particular port as well, with this 5000 port. So now the things will work for you. So we have to click on this save button, and it will start saving the things out for us. And then once this firewall is getting updated, so then you can go back to the particular cell, particular compute engine, and then again rerun the particular SSH. So if you click on this particular SSH, it's gonna open this particular SSH for you for that particular machine. So let's just wait for this few seconds. Okay, so you can see that machine setup is now done, and you can see the things are running out in the cloud. And then we have to just run the specific commands that I specified, right, which is related to this particular work, right? So I'll just make this split screen, and then I'm going to select the particular commands that we have to run, right? So we just going to run this particular sudo apt, so that we can update the things out in the machine that we are trying to run, right? So I'm just going to copy and paste it and just run the things out. And then I'm going to install the libraries like MLFlow over there in this particular machine EC2 instance, and then also install some different libraries that are dependencies that are required by MLFlow to be run on the particular instance, right? EC2 instance. So once that is done, then we have to just run an MLFlow server. So if you have been following me since all the videos of this particular MLFlow tutorial, we have been using this command like MLFlow server for all of our specifications, right, to set up an MLFlow over there. So we are using the same command, only things we have to specify the things now with respect to the cloud information or the cloud services. So if you see this particular command MLFlow servers -- and this particular is nothing but the host name that we provided over there. So you have to specify this as a by default, and then this is the port number, that is the 5000 port, and this is a backend store URI where you're going to specify your all the database information. So earlier we were using SQL database. If you scroll up, you're gonna see that we were using SQL MLFlow.db, which were internally in the local system. But right now we don't want to store the things out in the local system. We want to store it in the GCP cloud. So we have to specify the PostgreSQL database information over here in this particular command, and also the artifact root, right? So this default artifact route, we have to specify where our bucket location, like the bucket location of this particular GCP cloud storage, right? So these are the information that we need to provide. So here in this particular command, we have to just take up this particular command, and you have to start specifying the things out, right? So let me just take up this particular command and just copy it down into the notepad, and then we're going to take up and rewrite this particular whole command, and we'll run it on the EC2 instance SSH, right? So we'll have to specify MLFlow server host name, which is already specified, and we have already specified these things in the EC2 instance while setting up the firewall, right? So we have specified all this information in the firewall settings, and then here in the backend story here, we have to specify the PostgreSQL database. So we're gonna take up this PostgreSQL information, and then you have to specify the DB user. That means the database user. So for this, you have to go into the machine instance, and then you have to go into the SQL section, right? And then from here you can find the DB username. So let me go into the SQL section, right? So yeah, so if I open this particular SQL section, and then if you go into the SQL section, you're gonna see this user section, and if you click on this user section, you're gonna see the username. So you can see the username is Postgres. So I'm going to specify the username as Postgres. So this is the Postgres, and I'm going to copy paste it, and this is a DB password. So this is the password that you specified while creating the PostgreSQL instance, right? So I'm going to specify the password for it, and also this DB endpoint, right? So for this DB endpoint, you have to go into this particular SQL server instance, right? And you have to click on this overview. If you go into this overview, you want to see the IP address, right? So you can see this private IP address. So copy this private IP address over here, and you have to just paste it over here, and then this particular thing is done, and then you have to specify the DB name. So we have set up MLFlow as a DB name, and if you want to see this, you're gonna click on this database, and you're gonna see this MLFlow database. So we have to specify this name of MLFlow over here. So this particular PostgreSQL backend URI is set. Now we have to specify the GS bucket name. So to specify the name of the bucket, we have to go into the bucket section, and you have to go into the cloud storage, and you want to see the name of the bucket, and just you have to type up the name of the bucket. So this is the name of the bucket. I'm just going to copy it and paste it, and let me just rewrite this particular thing, and let me just do it, right? So this is the thing, this is the command that you have to set up for the MLFlow to run over there. And once that is done, you're gonna just take up this particular command and just paste it up in the EC2 instance command, right? So we are going to just paste it up and just run it. So what it will do is it will just take up all this information, and it will set up the things for us. So now you can see the things are running here, which is running there in the port name 0.00.0 host, and 5000 is a port name, right? So we're gonna access this by using an API. So for this, what you have to do is you have to just take up you have to go to the compute engine, and then here you have to see the external API will be there, right? In external IP will be there. You have to copy this external API, and then you have to just write 5000 port, and it will open an MLFlow for you, which is running on the GCP. So you can see our whole MLFlow is now live, and you can share this link to any of your data scientists or any of your team members, and they can start tracking your results over here in MLFlow. And this MLFlow is running on the server. It's not on your local system. It's running on your cloud storage. And now you can just start using this for your storing of your information over the cloud. So everything will be stored on your cloud, on the database, and by using the database, and by using the GCP bucket, right? So this is how you're going to set up the things out in the cloud. And for the particular tutorial, I'm just going to show up the things like how we can store the things information, right? So I'm going to take up the same examples that we just explored while this tutorial has been explained, right? So we're going to go into this particular information. We just copy this particular MLFlow tracking URI. So we have to specify the MLFlow tracking UI. So if you have been following this particular tutorial playlist, then you're gonna know what I'm talking about. So before we set up an MLFlow, we have to set up this MLFlow tracking URI. So where you want to set up the things out, or where you want to store the things out, right? So I'm going to store all the informations here in GCP instance, right? So I'm going to specify the path. So this is the GCP instance URI where I want to specify, or where I want to store the things out, right? So this is what the path I want to save it here, and then set the experiment name, and I will just set this up, right? So this will set up a wine quality experiment over there, and also the tracking URI will be set. So if you go and refresh this out, you're gonna see that a wine quality experiment has been created over there. And now we'll start storing the information, right? So let me just take up the information. So I'm going to just take up the information, right? I'm going to just log in the information and just take up this particular cell. I think this particular cell will work for me. Okay, so let me just import this particular things out. So this is the credential that you have to make up from your Google Cloud application and store it in the variables and in your environment variable before you run up all this command, because we are going to interact with the services, right? And you need permission to interact with the Google Cloud services, right? So you can create a credentials in a JSON file from GCP, and then you can store it in the locals, and then you can specify as an environment variable like this, and then you have to just specify and run it over here so that it will start communicating with your particular GCP browser, GCP cloud storage, and then you have to run up this all the cells, and then you can just read the data, and then run up this particular function, and then run the test cell, and then you have to just start logging the information over there. So this is the same set of steps that we have already gone through it. I'm just running it and saving it over there in the cloud. How we are doing it, because just I've specified that tracking URI at the bottom with the particular path name and the quality wine quality experiment I have created, and in that particular URI only, setting up URI only, I'm particularly running this particular cells, and it will save all this information over there. So I think it has ran and has saved all this information over the cloud. So if you go into the MLFlow and if you just refresh this out, you're gonna see that experiment has been created. You can see all the information has been completely stored in this particular MLFlow environment. So you can see a lot of information has been gathered, like all the model details and everything. So, and the parameters, metrics, and all the tags, or all everything has been stored here in this particular GCP storage. And from here now you can share this particular link to your particular teammates, and from here they're gonna see multiple experiments, and then you're gonna see which particular model is working good and which particular model is not working good. So which parameter is working good and which is not working good for this particular scenario. And then after the analysis of this particular experiments, they're gonna just download this particular model, or you can just also register this model with some name. So if I say wine quality, then they're gonna register this particular model, and once that is done, so you can use this particular model to your production or in your staging areas, right? So this is what this particular tutorial will help you to do it. So once that is done, you can just play up with these things, and you can share these things with the particular teammates, and then from there they can take on and deploy the model for your staging in the production area. Likewise, we can do it, right? So that's how the useful it is to deploy the things out in the cloud, and it helps us to share the things out with the people in the and with the team, right? So that's how you can do it. And if you want to see the artifacts on the cloud, so if you go into this particular cloud and if you go into this particular SQL, or let's say you want to go into the bucket, so if I go into the storage bucket and you want to see the artifacts, so you can see this particular bucket that we created, right? So if you open it, you're gonna see all the artifacts are being stored, MLFlow artifacts. So if you see 1/0, and you can see the experiment names, everything is gonna store here. So I think this is the thing that we wanted, and this is the things that we were doing locally, right? So now everything is being stored over there in the cloud. You can see everything is on the cloud, right? So that's the beauty of this particular setup, and that's how you can do it in any cloud environment or in any cloud platforms. Even you can do it on AWS and Azure. So I think that's it for this particular video. If you like my content, do subscribe my channel and do like the video. Thank you.